Good afternoon, John. I'm going to start right now. Okay, so welcome. Today is Wednesday, the 26th of October, and we're going to talk some MongoDB Atlas today, and we're going to do that in the guise of kind of what we've been working on. I've made a couple changes, but we'll see how it works. All right, we will work with Atlas today and tomorrow. Friday will be our usual lab day, and I know that some of you we're not happy that we had lab Monday and Tuesday. I wasn't thrilled by it either, and I do understand your concerns. As far as I'm concerned, this is a one-time shot that people who are behind, this was their chance to catch up. All right, and I don't plan on doing it again, just so you know. So we're going to look at Atlas today and tomorrow. Friday will be a lab, and next week we're going to see where we get with Atlas this week. All right, so that's the first thing. Second thing, and I literally just sent this second thing out to you seconds ago. There is a job fair next Thursday at Rankin Wentzville, if you're close to the Wentzville campus, from 9 to 10:30. There's about 90 companies, but when I went through that list, which I guess I wasn't supposed to share with you because it had contacts on it, but I've done it anyway by now. So there was only one, and it was a staffing place that had said AWD on it, but a lot of them did say all departments. With 90, it's about 20% of the size of the one in St. Louis. And again, I can't say this to you too many times, especially those of you who are not who are graduating in May. You really want to go to whenever the next one is in St. Louis. It's going to be March or April. Typically, it's early April. I'll just shut up about that now. Okay, so we're going to go in and we're going to create another project right now. And before we do, okay, just so you know, you may or may not care, but I went out to the IMDb site and I found their top 25 movies of all time. So I grabbed those. Some of them were the same as the ones that I'd put down earlier. Some of them were different. Okay, so what I did was I went out and I created this file right here. It says it's gleaned from here, which means basically I stole it. But what I did was I grabbed about 8 pieces of information from each one of these. All right. And now that I look at it, that's got a wrong name, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. Okay. So each movie has a title, a year made, a running time, a category, and you'll notice with the category, it's in an array, and it's in an array so that it's possible for one film to be in more than one category. This is an example right here. All right. Rating, number of stars, because that's what they put in there, and it looked like it was between 0 and 10. I grabbed the description right from there, and I grabbed the image right from there. So all that information, literally, I grabbed right from there. So there's all 25, the 25 top movies in there. And as I mentioned in the email, I didn't have a chance to really run it and test it. I'm hoping it's okay. And if it's not, we'll see if we can figure out what the problem is. All right. The other thing too is we're going to start a new project in just a minute, but just to talk about 3 of the things that we're going to be installing in that project. One of them is cores. And as it says, it's a Node.js package for providing Connect Express middleware that can be used to enable cores with various options. Basically, it's so that you're able to go across websites when you do different things. Sometimes when you try to do certain operations, you might be precluded from doing those because the system is basically trying to save yourself. It's yourself from yourself, for lack of better words. All right. So we will be including cores with the stuff that we're doing. If you want more, as you can see, there's a GitHub page on it. All right. We're also going to be including for the first time .env. And .env, and it says it in here someplace, it's a it allows you to load environment modules from a .env file into process.env. So what we have been doing is, for example, when we've been setting up our port, we've said const port equals process.env.port, and then an or sign, and then, whatever your number is, 5, 6, 7, 8, or whatever. Well, that process.env That's what goes into the .env file. When it says .env, that's what it's called, but that's what it looks like in lowercase. And then finally, and I know you've seen this before, but just to talk about Mongoose. As it says, it's a MongoDB object modeling tool. All right, it's designed to work in an asynchronous environment. The reason that I brought this up, even though we've gone over this page already and we've looked at the official documentation page, is it says in there, it's designed to work in an asynchronous environment. The reason, in my humble opinion, that is important is database operations can potentially take a while. So as we set up our project today, we're going to be using async and await for basically every one of the operations that we're doing. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I wrote this morning, and I looked at it and it should work, but I haven't really tested it. So if it doesn't work, we'll see if we can figure out what the problem is. I'm not in any hurry to get this done. I'm in more of a mode that I want you to understand what's being done. So as always, and you guys always do a good job when you have questions that you ask, but please keep doing it. All right. So with all that said, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to come in, and from my desktop, I'm going to create a new folder. I'd like you to follow along, please. All right. And I'm going to call this Atlas_movies. Atlas because we are going to be using MongoDB Atlas in just a bit. Movies because, again, we're working with that movies database. All right. So I've got that. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to open up Git Bash and do a few of the things before we actually go into Visual Studio Code, just the stuff we normally do. So I'm going to do my npm init -y. We'll go in and we'll make our changes in just a minute to the package.json file like we always do. But I'm going to come in and do my npm I. Let me clear. So I'm going to do an npm I on, again, cores.env, which we just went over, Express, which we've gone over multiple times, and Mongoose. I think that's all we'll need for this. All right, as far as our regular dependencies, we'll add then, when this comes back, our development dependencies. So our npm I -D for NodeMon. And again, nothing new here, okay? And then let's just get into Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to say here, code dot. That should hopefully bring this up inside of Visual Studio Code. All right, and there we are. Now, I didn't look this up, but for some reason, my stuff got moved from the left to the right. I don't even know what I did to do that. There's probably a way to get it back. I don't really care. It's going to be fine the way it is. At least I think it is. So in package.json, just make the typical changes. This doesn't have to be changed to app.js. It's just that typically, all right, that's what we're going to do. So that'll be our app.js. I'm going to get rid of this test thing in here. And again, I know you've done this umpteen times. All right, and I'll change the author. That should be, again, everything that we have to change. So again, I've added cores.env, Express, and Mongoose. Made the change up in main here to app.js. In our scripts, added a start and a dev start, and added my name in there for the author. All right, that should be just fine. So I'm going to close that, and hopefully at least I won't have to open that up again. All right. The next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to come in and basically set up the folder structure that we're going to be using. Now, what we're going to basically get into in a matter of weeks is that in here, we're going to have two folders. When we start, we're going to have one that's called backend and one that's called front end. And kind of in a nutshell, the back end will be the stuff that we've been doing virtually for the entire semester. And the front end will basically be our React stuff. All right. So I created another folder here. We didn't have to. We could call it API. We could call it whatever we want. But to try to get us ready for this, I created a folder and I just called it server because it's stuff that's going to be on the server end. Again, do we have to do this? No, it's just the way that I did do it. So under server, I first came in. And what did it do here? I maybe pressed the wrong button. Let me get rid of this. All right. I want that to be a folder. So server, there it is. Okay, and under server, I'm going to create three more folders. I'm going to have my controllers folder. All right, under server, I'm going to have my models folder. And then finally under server, this is why I pardon my French, but I suck at doing this stuff and doing it right underneath code. I don't know why, but I just do. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do it like this. All right, so I've got my server, and server right now has in it controllers. I'm going to add a new folder that's going to be called models. I'm going to add another new folder that's going to be called routes. All right, and in my controllers folder, I'm going to add a file. And that file is going to be called movie controller.js. All right. You'll see all these in just a minute. In my models folder, I'm going to add two files. The first one is going to hold all my .env type of info. So it's going to be db.js. And the second one is going to hold my movie model. So I just call that movie.js. And then finally, under my routes folder, I added a single file that I called movieroutes.js. All right, so that with that, hopefully I can go back into code here and not screw it up. But this is what I have now. So what the heck happened here? Let's see. Okay. All right. So underneath here, I've got server. Underneath server, I've got a controllers folder. I've got a models folder. I've got a routes folder. Under controllers, I've got a file called moviecontroller.js. Under models, I have two files. The first one is db.js. The second one is movie.js. And under routes, I have one more file that's called movieroutes.js. Okay? And hopefully that makes at least enough sense, all right, that we can start working with this in just a minute. Now I'm going to click down here and I'm going to add another file here, and that will be my .env file that we will use later. Starts with a period, env, and hit enter. Now I'm not going to put anything in it now, but it's there. And I'm going to add then one more file here, and that will be my app.js file, which we're going to start writing right now. All right. And I'm asking this question, if there's just silence, that's fine. Is there anyone who does not understand the setup of this right now? All right. And again, did we have to do it like this? The answer is definitely not. All right. But again, I've mentioned this term before. You're starting to see how we're segregating things out as opposed to taking all of our controller logic and all of our routes and putting them all under app.js. All right, we're breaking the stuff up. Okay, so in app.js, I don't know, we got about 15 lines. Many of them will be stuff we've been doing all semester. So const express equals require express const cores equals require cores. All right, we don't, when we work with .env, and I'm going to put it in a second, we don't say const env equals required .env. That's not the way it's done. So with what I'm about to put in, if this doesn't look like it makes a boatload of sense, if it does not, then go back and take a look at the npmjs.com page for .env. So what you say here is require .env dot, and you'll notice config is there. All right, that's how you set it up. All right, that's basically what that .env file is going to hold, is going to be what's referred to as our MongoDB URI, or Uniform Resource Indicator. Don't worry about that. We're going to get to all that stuff later. All right, so we'll have const app equal express, and we'll have our const port equal process.env.port. Usually, sometimes you see port in uppercase, sometimes in lowercase. Doesn't appear like it matters. Or, and I just randomly pick 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, it doesn't matter what you pick. All right. So those are our constants. So let's add our middleware. And there's 3 lines of this. So app.use, and again, the order doesn't matter. Cores, app.use, express.json. We're going to be doing some more work with Postman today. And app.use, express.url encoded, extended. I just made it true. And it doesn't seem to matter whether it's true or false. All right, 2 or 3 more lines and then we're done with this. The next one, I'm going to set up the routes. So in other words, I am going to let the system know where my routes are going to live. All right, so const routes equals require /server. All right, slash routes slash movie routes .js. All right, and that should have been inside of single quotes or double quotes. Oh, great, the power just went here. Can I ask you guys real quick, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can.
Yeah, we just had a power hit. I'm at, a student was supposed to come in today. So I am at Rankin Wentzville, and I'm in the other building in the training center. And luckily there's sun outside, because it's, other than that, it's totally dark in here. Okay, so after we do that, we want an app.use, and we want to set that up that basically it says that we're going to be using our routes. All right. And then finally, as we always do, we need our app.listen, and that'll be on our port. And console.log, I'll just put it on a new line. All right, so I'll do my console.log. And like we always do, listening on port And I don't know how I did this, but I did it. So that those should be parentheses, of course. That's why that's looking a little funky. All right, there we go. All right, so that is everything, as far as I know, that goes into our app.js file. Nothing new here except line 3, that require.env.config. Other than that, really everything that you've seen, that you see up here, is stuff we've done before. All right. Then the other new stuff is, or new thing is this line right here, where we're adding cores in as some of our middleware, and then finally where we're setting up our routes. Now, you do have to realize, and I think you probably both do, that what we need to do here is we need to have a correlation between our app.js file, our movie routes.js file, and our movie controller.js file. This is providing the linkage, or whatever you'd like to call that. All right. So this is providing the stuff, for lack of better words, to be able to link our app.js file to our routes. We're going to build all that stuff in just a couple minutes. All right. Now, what we're going to try to do right now is we're going to attempt to install Atlas on our machines. All right. My version of it seems to be screwed up, and I don't know why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create another account, but I'm going to use my charter account. Again, when you set it up, I would appreciate it if you'd use your information here from Rankin. Okay, so let me do a file save all on this first. And then I'm going to go out to the internet. All right, and out on the internet, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to MongoDB.com. Again, you can follow along. I'd appreciate it if you would. All right. And there's different ways that you can get to this. The easiest way, in my humble opinion, is to go to products and then just choose Atlas right here. All right. So that's mongodb.com/products/Atlas. All right. And it gets us to right here. Okay. Now, I don't want to read a lick of this. You can take a look at it if you have it in interest. It is a cloud-based system. A lot of people are using it, etc. So there's stuff in there. I'm not saying it is or it is not worth reading. That's totally up to you. But I'd like you next to click the try free button. And you'll notice when you hover over it, the shape changes. Okay, so click the try free. All right, in order to do this, you have to sign up. We've done this kind of thing before. Now, I do want to mention something to you, and this is pretty doggone important. All right, you are going to basically, the lights just came back on. All right, you are basically going to be in here setting up two different things today. This that we're doing right here will get you into MongoDB Atlas. A little bit later, in a few minutes from now, we're going to be setting up a user account. All right. And it's important that, of course, that you remember both of those passwords that you put in, but especially the one for the user that we're about to create a little bit later. So I'm going to first name Jeff, last name Scott. Company, I'm just going to put self. You can put rank in there. You can leave it blank. It doesn't really matter. It's not a required field. But I've got a jpscott@charter.net. So I'm going to use that in lieu of using the one I already have, jpscott@rankin.edu, because that would give me an error. All right. All right. Let's see. All right. Agree to the terms, etc. You can, I think there's a way you can print it out. Notice you can also sign up with your Google account. All right, if you want to do that, do that. So create your account. All right. And I'm not sure what happened there, but it looks like, I mean, usually when you click here, the system goes and let's see, I'm trying to make sure I didn't forget anything. I didn't. Did this. error. The email address is, oh, fantastic, is already in use. All right. Then let me try my other one. Let's see, I gotta remember what that is. Hold on just 1 second, because I'll find it like this. Oh, come on, you should make me log in. All right, I'm just gonna put in what I think it is. Better check later to make sure that that's correct. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that just so I've got a copy of it. Okay. Hopefully it'll let me. So your password must contain 8 characters, not contain your email address. I should be okay with both those. It is more than 8. I didn't put anything about email in there. So create my account. All right, yeah, I'll save that. Great, now verify your email. That isn't good. Well, you'll have to do this. Let's see. Normally when I get into Drive like this, I'm just going to go into drive.google.com and see if it's. Oh. Normally it makes me log in every time. Of course, the one day when I want to log in, it won't let me. I'm just trying to double check to make sure I've got the right thing in here, and I've got to get to this. Well, I'm going to do something really stupid right now, but you get to watch me at least. That's my regular Gmail, but I don't have a clue to what that password is either. So, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk you guys through the steps. All right. And I'll try to catch back up. All right. A little later, because this is ridiculous to have you watch me flounder. Okay. So you should have to go into Gmail and verify, not Gmail, but your ranking account or whatever you use to set that up with. You should need to go in there and verify that indeed, all right, that all worked. All right. Okay, so you filled in the sign up form, you agreed to the terms of service. Then once you do that, you'll want to log in. So in other words, if I come in here and I go into mongodb.com / or just leave it like that. Now again, I'll go to products and I'll go to Atlas. Then you should notice there's a sign in thing here, and you should then be able to sign in with your information. Now, just so you know, no, I don't want to now verify your email at rankinit.com. Yeah, of course. What should happen when you come in to do this, though, I don't want to sign in as that, is it'll come in, and if you haven't used the account for a while, all right, then it may come in, and maybe you've had this with other accounts that you have. It may come in and say, we've got to send you a code. All right. And they might ask you for a phone number or an email address or something to send that code to. Normally that's what I'd have. I wish I wouldn't have even done this darn thing that I did today, but I did. All right. Because when I sign in, it's going right to there. So I wonder if I go back in and try to sign in, if it will, oh my goodness. I just wanted to let me sign in here using my regular account. So, all right. Okay. Let me just ask, because not being able to see your machines, all right, were you able to log in to Atlas? Somebody answer. Are you guys there? What's that?
What, what'd you say?
No, I said, when you go out to mongodb.com and you choose, so when you go out to here, when you just go out to mongodb.com, all right, and you go and you get out here, we go to products Atlas like this, can you sign in?
Yeah, I can sign in.
All right,
here
Clayton, can you sign in?
Yes, I can sign
Okay,
in.
all right.
I just
So,
made a new account. I didn't try to sign in on my other one.
okay, that's fine. All right, so you're able to sign in. Now, what hopefully is showing up on your screen right now, and damn, I wish I could show you, but is there a something there that says create cluster? Can you see that? It might be down at the bottom of your screen. Don't click it yet, but I'm just asking, can you see a green button probably at the bottom of your screen that says create cluster?
I don't see that anywhere.
Okay. Do you see a bunch of stuff at the top of your screen that's got AWS and some other stuff? Is that the screen you see right now?
No.
It's not. It's just like it says database deployments. It says create
Says,
a database in like the middle of the screen.
Boy, oh boy, I wish I wouldn't have done what I did. Yeah, of course, this isn't the right account. And I don't even know what account this is. I'm going to try this again. So hold on a second. I'm hoping that that's the right one. So. Come on, that's got to be the right damn account. Oh, it's Jeff Scott. Okie dokie. Great. Verify your email. There we go. All right, so continue. All right, is this where you guys are? All right, do you have something like this on your screen or do you have something else?
We have something else.
All right, I mean, it's learn, I've never seen this thing before. So learn Mongo, fine, select. I don't know, I'm making all this up. I have never been asked a question like this before, so finish. All right, is that where you are?
It is not.
All right, can one of
It-
you or both of you just send me a quick screenshot of what your screen looks like right now? Because I don't want to go on. I want to make sure that we're in sync with one another. All right, I apologize for this. Should have guessed this would happen. What I want to see is if both of you are at the same exact spot right now. So again, if you could send me a screenshot, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I just sent mine.
I have sent you mine as well.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
I sent you mine as well.
Out of both. I want to just see if you guys are at the same spot. That's all. So. So. Build a database. Okay. And it looks like you're both at the same spot. Read a database, build a database. All right. Choose your cloud provider, region, and specs. Okay. All right. What I'm hoping, and we're going to see if it happens right now. All right. And let me close this. And get back in here. Here we go. All right. So I have verified there. All right. What I'm hoping is if you click the button that says build a database, I want you to click that and then tell me what it says next. Because there are some settings that we have to set up. Go ahead.
After I click the build a database, yeah, I'm at that point, kind of like where you're at. I'm assuming.
Okay, that's good. All right, as you'd guess, when you take a look at what's on the screen, I'm hoping, Clayton, you're in the same spot. We want to pick the free tier. Okay. So click create right here. And now it's asking you a bunch of questions. There's that create cluster. Don't worry about that for right now, okay? All right, you can use any one of these for your cloud provider. The default is AWS. The recommendation is actually that you keep all of the defaults. So keep this to AWS, keep this to North Virginia or whatever the heck that is. For the cluster tier, you shouldn't have to touch this. For the additional settings, you shouldn't have to touch anything that's in here. It's up to you. If you don't like the name of that cluster 0, which is the default name, if you don't like that name, all right, then you can change it to something else, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And then I'm going to click the button here that says create cluster. All right. Now, good news or bad news, just so you know, that cluster can take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes to be created. All right. I just want you to understand that. All right. Okay. So now it says, how would you like to authenticate your connection? You want to choose in here username and password, the one that's already selected. Again, I'm taking for granted that you are with me right now. We're at the same spot. All right. So you can put whatever you want to really put in there. I recommend do not have any blank spaces. So for instance, I'm just going to put JP Scott right there. All right. For the password, I will let it auto-generate a password for me. All right. You can have it show if you want. All right. Or you can put in your own. It really and truly Does not matter. So I'll put in my own. All right. And I would strongly recommend that for that username and that password, that you copy those to your clipboard or wherever you copy things to. Okay, just don't forget it. Okay, especially the password. The username might not be a big thing, but if you auto-generated a new password, all right, then I suggest that you copy it, etc. All right, so I put this in here. I'm going to click create user. All right, and it's told me that it has done this. Okay, so it says here that basically it has set up a user. I could go back in and edit this. And I believe that if you do go back in and edit it, well, it's not letting me, but I know that you eventually can, that you can go back there and update the password, etc. if you want to do that. All right. I don't know why you'd want to right now, but again, if you ever have to. Okay. All right. So while we're doing this stuff, everything that we're doing right now, we are doing it waiting for this cluster to take place. All right, to be created. And for lack of better words, a cluster is everything that holds our databases. All right, for lack of better words. All right, so over on the side here, if you click database access, you should see what you just did. All right. And it should have your name here. I'm not sure what Scram stands for. I don't know. All right, but you should have read write any database add admin, which means that you can do anything in here. All right, you don't have to do anything there. I just wanted to show you that. The next thing that's in here I'd like you to click is where it says network access. All right, and when you click network access in here, believe it or not, we're almost done. All right, choose the add IP address. Now, when you do this, it's a little bit different. For what we're doing, we're basically, for lack of better words, we're kind of in our own testing environment. All right. The reason I'm telling you that is if you were working at a company and your company had some kind of a server that was going to hold this stuff, you'd click right there. And you'd add your current IP address, all right, etc. Or if you clicked on here, you would add something. Now, if you click here, you're the only one who can do anything with this, etc. I can't look at it. Nobody else can look at it. For what we're doing, it's not going to hurt anything. Just click the allow access from anywhere. That does not mean that people are going to be able to go in and edit your database once it's online. That's not what it means. What that means is when we eventually create our project and we put it out there in the cloud, that anybody can get to it, but still they have to know what the URL is to be able to get to it. All right. So the 0.0.0.0/0 does mean just that. It means from anywhere. All right. So you can click confirm. All right. And it says it's pending. It might take just a little bit of time. It's no big thing. It should set everything up for you. All right. And it's interesting because it says pending. There we go. And it might just became active. All right. And again, not being able to see your screens. All right. I don't know how fast your internet connection is or is not. Have you both been able to keep up with everything I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Then click on database up here at the top. All right. And it'll say database deployments and a bunch of other stuff. Yours may look like this. Yours may not look like this. All right. It looks like my cluster has already been created. All right. That's a good thing. All right. If yours isn't here yet, it probably means you have a slower connection. And it's not a big thing one way or the other, just so you know that. All right. If it takes a little time, that's fine. But I can now go in and click on it if I want to. But if yours does look like this, what I'd like you to do is not click on there, but click on the word connect right here. and it comes back here and it shows you this. All right. And it says choose connect to your application. Again, it's amazing. This is brand new. What do I mean? It used to say on here, one of the options was basically for, just connect your application. Okay. So I believe this is the one that we're going to want to choose. I'm not. Am I positive? Well, let me tell you why. These are the drivers. This is Compass, and what Compass is Compass, and we did download that earlier. We probably should have learned that, but I didn't want to spend a lot of time going over it. Compass is Mongo's equivalent of PHP-MyAdmin. So we were doing a lot of stuff from the command line. It may have been better off to work with Compass. I've done a little bit of work with it, but I didn't want to flounder through it and have you watch me flounder, so we did it from the command line. We
Mr.
used
Scott,
MongoDB shell. All right, so I'm going to use this one right here.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
my screen is different than yours. I don't have the same options.
Yeah, same for me.
Okay, what do you have? Do you have one that?
They're like connect with MongoDB shell, connect your application, connect using MongoDB Compass, and connect using VS Code.
Yeah, that's in the past. That's what I've had. I've never had this that's showing here. I've never had that before. All right. So I'm not even positive. It looks like everything was set up, but I have never, ever seen this before. Whenever I chose connect, I had what you guys have. I wonder if I go back, add a connection, add a database user, choose the connection method. That says it's been done. It said you'll need your credentials users in the next step. Yeah, I get that. All right. I'm going to go here. I bet you it's because yours is here under the choose it. No, it's not.
No, mine is the same, everything as yours except for the choices, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like the top is.
And I'm worried because I don't want these choices. I want your choices. So I'll tell you what, can you read me your choices again, either one of you, but slowly?
Yeah, the first one is connect with the MongoDB shell.
Okay.
Second one is connect your application. Third one is connect using MongoDB Compass. And the fourth one is connect using VS Code.
You want the one that says connect your application.
Okay.
All right. So click on that. And once you do, there should be a little box that comes up somewhere right in here. And it's got a big connection string in there.
Yep.
Copy that connection string, put it someplace on your desktop in a file, and don't lose it. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I don't want to go on here, right in here where we are, until mine looks like yours, because I don't like the way this looks. Now, I'm not going to give us a break yet because we haven't been going that long, but I want us to go back. So let's do this. You'll be able to do everything I'm telling you right now. I'm going to be the one who has a problem with it, and that's okay. So what I'd like you to do is go back into VS Code. All right, so go back into your VS Code. Okay, and you'll notice, I guess this was running. I didn't even know it was running. Oh, this is an old copy, so that's why. So let me get rid of that. It was something I was working on the other day. All right. There we go. Okay. So I'd like you to please, for right now at least, we're probably done with this file. So for your app.js, do a save on it, and you should be able to close it. All right. Then I'd like you to open up the .env file, which right now is empty. Okay. Now, when I told you to copy that string that you just had to your clipboard, hopefully it's still in your clipboard, or you can go copy it if you need to. Because what we want to put in here is MongoDB underscore URI. Try that again. MongoDB underscore URI equals. You can put spaces in there. Most people don't. They just do it like this. Then paste that string in. Again, I don't have the string right now, but I want you to put that string in there. All right, you are going to have to change a couple things, or at least one thing, if not two things on that string. Again, not being able to see your screens, okay? Does it have, I'm asking you this, does it have your username in it?
Yes.
It does.
Okay, afterwards, it probably has password and it has brackets around it. Okay, remove the bracket, password bracket, and replace that with your actual password. And I don't mean the password at first, I mean the one that you just set up when you set up your user. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, towards the end, it probably says something like create, read, write, or something like that. All right. But before that, does it have the name of a database, like My First Database? Does it have anything like that?
No, I don't see anything like that.
All right. Well, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you, do you have a slash where it does have, like, maybe it has a question mark first?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and it
But
says
then it's got
retry
create and a
writes.
bunch of other stuff at the end.
No, it just says it has a slash question mark, retry writes equals true, and W equals major.
Oh, is that what yours looks like, John?
Yeah, it's identical.
All right.
I can
Then
send
I'll
you a
tell you
screenshot of
what
it.
I'd like both of you to do is to copy that string and send it to me. You can remove your password if you want. Just leave it as password. That's totally fine. All right. But I want to see, again, this is, I'm shooting in the dark here, not having done it exactly like this before. All right. The reason that we want to do this is if we don't put this file in or this information in .env, then we have to expose it in our app.js file. And then once we expose it in our app.js file, you know, technically it's in there and it's in there as clear text. So anybody can look at it and know your password. You don't want that. So typically you put it in like this in the .env file. And one thing we have not looked at yet, you don't have to do this right now. You can if you want to. You don't have to. But what we're going to eventually do here is we're going to come down here and we're going to add one more file. And that will be a .getignore file. All right. And what we will have in there will be two things, .env and node_modules. Because EVN, good golly, Jeffrey. What that says is when we eventually go and load this project, when we load this project up onto the cloud, that we don't want the .env file included as part of it, and we don't want node modules. You already know this because we've done it before, that if I go back to my project, all right, if I go back to my project and I remove the node modules folder that's in there, and then if I go down into my terminal and I just type in npm I, it comes back again. You already know that. All right. So you don't include that because what node modules does is it bloats the size of your program. And people don't need it because they can just do the npm I. All right. So it really cuts down on the size. Now you can go in and create this if you want to. You want this file to be right underneath the root. That's why I clicked down here. You want it to be right under the root, and it's called .getignore. And what it's saying is later, when we do push this puppy up to GitHub, it should ignore that file and that folder. All right. And that's really all you need in there. So if I do a file save all here and I close this, all right, sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. It just depends. But sometimes with certain packages, what it'll do is it'll take this and it'll gray it out, and it'll take this and it'll gray it out. And I mean really gray it out to show you that those particular things are not going to be added in there. All right. Okay. So what we are going to do next, and we're going to take a break in just a moment, even though it is only one, is we're going to come in and we're going to add the information into our models files. So we're going to add the information into our db.js file. We're going to add the information into our movie.js file. We're going to do both of those in just a couple minutes. All right. And in the DB stuff, basically that's how we're going to link our database, all right, to the program, to the app.js, but we're going to do that through what you just put in your .env file. All right. And then in our movie.js, that's where we're going to put in our schema. So we'll do that. Then when we get done, we'll add our routes. Even though we won't have the controllers yet, we'll just add all the routes so they're out there. Then we'll go into movie controller and we will add the controllers. All right. The controller functions or whatever you want to call them. All right. It is only 101, but let's come back at 1:15. I'm going to see if I can get this so my machine looks like your machine. All right. I'll be right back. All right, it is 1:15. I was able to log in as me with my Rankin account. I logged out and logged back in, which is what I should have done to begin with, but I think this is what you guys said you had, and I said you wanted to choose connect your application. All right, and in here, then once I copy that string, and I did look at both of yours, all right, so if I come back in here and I just paste this in, all right, it should say, yours should look at least similar to this, MongoDB plus server. This username right here, you want to get rid of that completely. And like for me, it was JP Scott. And the password, you don't want the brackets either. You want to get rid of that completely. So this isn't my password, but if it was just password, then I'd put that in there. All right. And then it should say something like this. All right. They have changed this thing dramatically since the last time I went into it, which was just a few weeks ago. I mean, you already saw that you had a different screen than I did. All right. But in the past, what always happened was like right here, this is what I asked about. It always put in something like my first database, something like that. That's what it said. Now mine doesn't say it either. All right. And I'm going to have to do some investigatory work because I want to make sure we can connect. And I think you know this already, but just on the off chance that you do not, the reason that we want to do this is when you work with the Mongo shell, you're confined to just your machine. All right. But when we put it in Atlas, we can put it out on the cloud and anybody can take a look at it then. That's what we want. So we're going to end up making a movies database. So I'm just going to call it movies DB. All right. And that's my hope is that's what yours is going to look like. I see what you both sent me, okay? But again, hopefully yours at least looks similar to mine. This might be different. That's not that big a thing. But again, it should have something like MongoDB plus server : / and then get rid of that bracket where it says username bracket and just put in the username. This is the username. This is not how you log in when you get into the system. This is the other one, the second one that we created. Same thing with the password. This is the second password that you created, not the one to log into Atlas itself. All right. And I manually put this in here. Now, I'm like I said, and I promise I will do this. I'll look tonight, because if this doesn't work, well, we're going to have to figure out why and what the alternative is. All right. Okay. So like I said, I copied that. In fact, I'm going to just copy the whole thing with, I'm going to close and I'm going to throw it back up there again, right underneath the other one. All right. So now I've got the whole thing. Okay. As I mentioned to you before the break, and this is what we're going to do right now. We're first going to go in and under our models, we're going to go into into db.js right there. So I'd like you to go in there. And we're only going to put in about 5 or 6 lines in here. All right, the first line will be const mongoose equals require mongoose. All right. The second line, this is how we're going to connect. And that will be mongoose.connect. And what you'll want to say in here is process.env. And I'm even though mine is not in there, I'm taking for granted yours is. So MongoDB underscore URI. Now, in the past, you shouldn't, what I just gave you should be sufficient to try to connect you. But in the past, you've had to enter other stuff in there. You had to enter a couple more things. You had to say in here, I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to show you this. You don't have to do this. But on the same line, and again, I'm going to put it on multiple lines, but you would put it on the same, actually it shouldn't matter because there's a comma here anyway. but you used to at least have to put in this. I believe you no longer do, but you had to say in here, use new URL parser, and you had to set that equal to true. And then you also had to say use unified topology. In fact, both of those went inside of the curly brace. Like that. Now, to my knowledge, you don't have to do that anymore. You do not have to do that anymore. All right. These were things that before they upgraded the version, I think it went from like 3.4 to 4.1 or something like that. You had to put this in, but now you shouldn't need to. This with just the paren on the end, that should be sufficient. All right. Now I'm going to give you 3 or 4 more lines, and these lines are basically taken right from the MongoDB documentation. So const DB, what you call it is okay. You could call it database if you wanted to. DB is just a common name. So I'm going to say mongoose dot connection. All right, just like that. And that's all you put in there. But then you have to see whether or not it worked. So like I said, this stuff is pretty much taken. I don't remember from where because I wrote it down. This was in the documentation. I foolishly didn't annotate where in the documentation it was. And it may have even changed since then. But db.on, and this is if it fails. So on error, and we'll just do a console dot error dot bind console connection error. And let me do a word wrap on here. So let me go to view word wrap. Okay, so that's all in one line. And then on the next line, so that will handle it if for some reason it didn't connect. Then you can do a db.once, and then you tell it to open. All right. And after that, all right, and you can do like a console.log and then something like connected to movies database or something like that. Okay, now what doesn't it like here? Boom, open. Well, when I first wrote this, I wrote it as a regular function. So I wrote here function paren, but that shouldn't matter. So what doesn't it like here?
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
whenever you do the single quote open, you didn't close it.
Yep, I did not close it. You are correct. Yep, that would do it. All right. So it should work like that. And the reason that that's important is you don't want to be constantly opening this, but every time you run the application, it should open it and then keep it open until you physically would come in and do a db.close. All right, or you'd log off or whatever. All right, now that's everything in the db.js file. All right, that's everything that's in there. Okay, we're not even going to test it because I know mine won't work and yours may work and it may not work. It's not that big a thing right now. So file save, and I'm going to close this. And now I'm going to close this as well. Actually, I'm going to open up the under models, the movie.js file. So we're going to do this now. This will create, is where we are going to create our model. All right, now, when you do this, you got two choices. If you want to use the same information that you've had in your own database that you created a lot earlier, the one that we originally created inside of MySQL, that's fine. If you want to use the one that I sent you today, that's also fine. I'm going to take for granted that you want to use the one that I sent you today. The reason I'm telling you that is, of course, the schemas are going to be different depending on whether you use that one or whether you use your original one. Okay, but I'm assuming now you're going to be using the one that I sent you. So we have to bring in Mongoose. And then we want to set up our schema. Right? And in here is where we're going to put in all of our schema information. Now, at the bottom, you'll want to say module.exports equal mongoose.model, and it'll be movie. Again, because it should make a collection for us, hopefully, that's called movies. All right, we talked about this before, and our movie schema. Just like that. All right. The movie is in quotes. The movie schema is not. Now I'm going to come back in, and right here, I'm going to actually create the schema now. But I just wanted to make sure that no one forgot to do the export down at the bottom. All right. So my schema has 8 fields in it. It's got a title, a year made, a running time, a category, a rating, a number of stars, a description, and an image. All right, it's got all that stuff in it. Okay, so that's how I'm going to set mine up. So first, title, and it'll be, the type on that will be a string. Now, okay, just so you know, you may have known this, you may not. If I type required right here, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to make all the fields required, but I can put my own message right here. So I just put the movie title field is required. All right. And as you can guess, as we go down, I'm going to keep saying the same kind of thing every time. All right. So we need a comma after that. And then we'll put in our next one, which I called year made. And again, this time the type will be number. The min, I literally just set to 1896. And I think I told you earlier, that was when I saw someplace online when the first movie came out. And I put 2023 in for the max and for the required. I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to change the message a little bit. So I want this to say the movie year made field is required. All right, so those are the first two. I don't know how quickly either one of you type, so I'll give you a second to put that in. When we get done with this, we're going to immediately jump over and set up our 5 movie routes. Then we're going to go over and we're going to set up in our controller, basically the route methods. Okay, so that's title and it's year made. The next one is running time, which is very similar to year made. So I'm going to put in my comma here. And I'm just going to copy this one. And I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to make changes. I'm going to change this from year made to running time. Yeah, the minimum in here is going to be 45. I decided 45 minutes. and the maximum is going to be 720. Again, those are arbitrary numbers by me. What I mean is, when you guys are setting yours up, I'm saying that the smallest running time for a movie would be 45 minutes. The largest running time for a movie would be 12 hours. We had some weird documentary or something. So then I changed this to running time. All right, so that's the third of our 8 fields. Now the next one, if you take a look right here very quickly, again, this is where I got that information from. And as I mentioned to you, The Godfather, for example, is crime and drama. If you go down to one of these other ones, all right, there was at least one or two that had here, Braveheart, biography, drama, and history, all right? And eventually we may want to be able to come in and search based on category, all right? And the reason that I am telling you that is that when we set up the category, rather than setting it up as a string, I set it up as an array, which is totally legitimate. So in here, I've got category, and the type is array. And again, we'll have that required, oops, I don't want that, I'm sorry. We'll have that required message in there again. All right. So category, type array, required, the movie category field is required. All right. Another comma, and then we'll add the next one here. All right. And the next one will be, I just called it num stars. I kept everything in lowercase, so num stars. That was of type number. The minimum was 0.0 stars, and the maximum was 10 stars. And again, I want that required message in there. Need a comma there. Okay, now it's complaining right here. Let's see if we can figure out why. So, comma expected, comma, comma, no comma there, comma, type array. No, doesn't look something that I wrote, but it looks exactly like what I've got on my page here. So, well, again, it hopefully at least is going to work its way out. So far, we put in a title. We put in a year made. We put in a running time. Okay. Then we put in a category. And we put in a number of stars. Okay. There are a couple more fields left, literally 2, a description field and an image field. Okay. And just so you know, you probably have already figured this out. But again, when we look at all of these, I literally grabbed that from here. So there was the title. There was the running time. There was the rating. There was the category. There was the number of stars. There was the description. And I right mouse clicked on each one of these and chose copy link address. That was used for the image. All right. So again, next was description.
Mr. Scott,
Yes,
you need a colon after your category and num stars.
thank you. That's probably why I got those, so thank you. Yep, there you go. So here we need description. And in here, just 2 fields, type string. And again, that required. You can, if you want, just put required true to that. It doesn't really matter. So the movie description field is required. And then finally, the image. Now, just so you know, when I did mine, I just called it IMG, but in the information I sent you, I literally called it the word image. So I'm going to use that. All right. And I put in here type string. I didn't make that required because it's possible that a movie doesn't have an image with it yet. All right. If we want, we can put that in and make it required as well. You do have all of this information. All right. So this is the schema, but you guys both, everybody in the class was sent the actual information today. All right. So I'm going to do a file, save all. I'm going to close this. I'm going to fix that in just a bit. But the next thing that I want to bring up then is I want to go into my routes and I want to bring up my movie routes.js file. And the nice thing about this is this whole thing is only about 10 lines long. All right. And most of the stuff that's in there, in fact, virtually all of it, you've already used. So we're going to have const express equals require express const router equal express dot router, again, must be with a capital R. And this is the new thing, const movie controller equals require. And let me close this. We got some more room. And what do we have to say? Well, we got to go up one level and we've got to go to our controllers. And underneath there, we want our movie controller. We don't even need the .js in there. All right. So this is where we are starting to link what we're going to put in here for the routes with the actual movie controller. So what we're telling it is what we're about to put in here are 5 lines of code. All right, which are going to be our actual movie routes. I can put a comment there, it doesn't matter. So these will be our actual movie routes. So when we attempt to go to one of those routes, all right, it should call the associated controller file, or I should say the associated controller method from our controller's file, our movie controller.js. So router.get /API/movies. We can call that anything we want. All right. And oops, come off it, stop it. And when it does that, we want it to go over and for movie controller. Now, it's not going to find any of these because we haven't written them yet. All right. And I just called it list all movies. Okay. In fact, I'm going to copy this thing 5 times, then just make some changes. All right, so that's the first one. The second one, we will have to provide an ID. All right, let me move these over, just line them up just so you can see what's going with what here. And this won't be list all movies. This will be list single movie. All right, then next, so those are our 2 get routes. We'll have our post route. All right, and that will allow us to come in here and insert in a new movie. So I called it insert single movie. All right. Then we've got a put and a delete. Now I tried doing it with patch and had a little bit of problems, so I'm just going to do it with a put. And again, when I do the put and when I do the delete, in both of these, I will need to give it an ID. So this will be update single movie. And this one will also have an ID. And this one will be delete single movie. Now, again, when I say this kind of stuff, I never want it to seem like I'm talking down to anyone, but I want you to all realize that in just a moment, we're going to go over to the movie controller file that's under our controllers. And what we must do is we must write 5 methods in here, or functions. That's the name of one, 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 and that's the name of one. And hopefully if you're like, well, duh, then that's good. All right. And I spelled single wrong there, so this could potentially be a problem. Okay, so I'm going to do here a file, save all, and I'm going to close this, at least for now. I may have to open it up later. But I want to go in now to my movie controller.js file. And now I'm going to write the controllers. Okay. Now, this is going to be a little more code. All right, so this is going to take a while to put all this in. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we have to require our DB thing, because that's kind of what's got all of our information about Mongo in it. So require ... / models / DB. All right. And we want to be able to use movie dot something, movie dot find, or movie dot insert one, or movie dot etc. So we're going to come in here and make a constant that we'll just call movie. And we're going to set it equal to require, and that'll be the other file that's in our models folder. Just like that. And again, what I'm trying to get across to you, and I don't know, I don't see faces or anything, so I don't know if I'm trying successfully or not, but we are bridging together 3 different things in our program: the app.js file, the movie routes.js file that we just created, and this movie controller. All right. So the first thing we want to do, and I just put a comment in here just so you could see it. So I said, get all movies. And later we're going to have a get single movie. Then we're going to have add single movie. And then we're going to have, update single movie. And finally, after we get done with all those, we'll have delete single movie. So we have to write the code to do all of those. And again, it at least is my hope that that makes sense to everybody. Okay? They're doing work in here. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's been real interesting. I've never had anybody come in here when I'm lecturing before, but they've been in here a couple times, so it's been kind of an interesting period. All right. So for our get all movies, let's write this one. And again, now you should understand this get all movies is basically the code that's going to run when the list all movies, we could call that one get to, it doesn't matter. In fact, it's got to be list all movies. All right, so let's put that in. So this will be list all movies. So I'm going to do an exports dot list all movies. And again, one of the things I showed you at the beginning of class today, when we talked about using .env and cores and some of this other stuff, was the fact that most database operations, you want them to happen asynchronously, because you don't know how long it's going to take before you get your data back. So you want to be able to go on and do other things. All right. The actual callback that we're going to put in here, of course, doesn't run until the information comes back. But the reason I'm telling you that is we used to always do this, equals, then like request, response, and then we had this and this. And we're still going to have that. But since this could take some time, we put the word async there. All right. And we're going to do these operations inside of a try catch. Because if for some reason that movie file doesn't exist or something somehow gets hosed, we want to be able to let the user know that. All right, so we're going to put in a try catch here. And I saw this guy, I was watching this tape. I don't know if this is going to work or not. So I'm going to try something here. He typed in try catch, and then he hit tab. And see what that did? Not that it's a big thing, but it immediately set the stuff up for you. I'd never seen that before, but I was watching this YouTube video last night and the guy did that. So, all right. Oops, I want that to be my error. So this is what I'm going to try to do. So I'm going to say const movies equals, and this might take a while. So with the async, I will use await, and it'll be movie dot find. All right. It's possible that when we do that, that will fail. The other thing is I want it to show us those movies on screen. So we're going to say res.json, and I want it to show us our movie object, our movies objects. All right. So this is going to show that here. All right. If it fails, I'm going to do a res.status, because the problem is probably on our end, .json. And I'm just going to say message, and it can tell me the error. All right, that's it. So that is my entire route for listing all movies. All right, doing that movie.find, and then basically spitting it back out. So that's the first one. All right. Well, next we want to be able to go and just get a single movie. So that's our next one that's down here, get single movie. All right, and again, it was called list single movie. So I'm going to come down here, and again, I'm going to do an exports dot list single movie. And again, it will be equal to async, request and response, just like we did before. And it'll be in a try catch. But what's going to be different is rather than grabbing everything, we only want to grab a single movie based on whatever ID we're going to end up putting in when we test this. All right. So again, we'll have another try catch in here. All right. And now I'm going to say, whoops, good golly, Jeff. We're going to come in here and we're going to say const ID equals req.params.id. And you should all understand by now, every one of you, we can call this whatever we want. And some people even call it params ID. But I thought at least that ID was sufficient right there. Okay. So now we're going to say const, instead of movies, we're just going to say movie because we're only getting back one of them, equals await. Now we want to do a movie dot find by ID, and by what ID? The one that we just set right there, the one that we're grabbing. All right. And again, we want to be able to show that. So another res.json. All right, res.json. And this time it'll just be movie instead of movies because we're only requesting one. All right. And if it's an error, I'm going to do the same thing we did here. Just going to say, give me a 400 error and tell me what the error is. So that's listing a single movie. So you can see the two of them are very similar to one another. But again, the commands have to be different because you know by now the find command finds everything, and the find by ID will find only one thing. All right. So how could these fail? What's going to happen in here if I put in an ID that doesn't exist? All right. It should come up and give me an error message in there. Okay. All right. So then the next thing that we want to do is we want to come in and we want to be able to post a brand new movie. This is where it's not hard, but there's just a little bit of typing. So this is insert single movie. So again, I'm going to come in here and move this up a bit. And this will be exports dot insert single movie equals async. Again, with our request and our response. All right. And now this is, like I said, this will be a bit of typing. Okay. What we call this, I just called it new movie because that's what it is. And that's going to be equal to, we're actually going to, for lack of better words, kind of instantiate a new movie in here. Okay. And good, bad, or indifferent now, we got to bring in 8 things. We don't have to bring in an ID because that'll be provided for us. But I'll want a title, and that's going to be req.body.title with a comma at the end. Don't put a semicolon. Year made, and that'll be req.body.year made. Then running time. Then category. And I'm just lining these up with tabs. You don't have to do that. If you just want a space between each one of these, works totally fine. All right, then rating. Then num stars. Then description. And finally, image. All right. Now that's setting everything up, but we still need a try catch block. And in the try catch block, we're going to attempt to save this. All right. So that's setting everything up. And again, what we're doing is we're grabbing that information that in Postman, in a post request, that we're going to put between the curly braces. So we'll have, after the curly brace, we'll have double quote title, double quote colon, and then a title. Double quote year made, double quote, and then a year made. That's the information that we're going to attempt to be able to put into our collection. So this will be our try catch. And the same kind of thing that we've been doing when there's an error, so I'm just going to copy it again. So that is everything for the insert a new movie. So we've now done the get all movies. We did the get a single movie, and now we just did an add a single movie. So we now have to be able to go in and update, and we have to be able to go in and do a delete. All right. And it's amazing. I have watched a boatload of videos on these over the last few weeks, and almost to a person that everybody who does this does one of 2 things for updates. Either they use a put where you have to list every field, or if they use a patch and you have 8 fields like we have, they only allow you to update one of them, which I think is kind of piss poor. All right. So what I did was I actually did use in here, basically I set it up for a put. All right. And we're going to put, no pun intended, we're going to put that in here right now. So this is going to be our update. So again, export dot, I think this was update single movie. Again, it'll be asynchronous. Let me move this down a bit so you can see what's going on. And what I can do, because this will make it a lot less typing, is I'm going to copy this, but I have to change it around. Okay. You don't have to do that. You want to type, go ahead and type, but I don't want to. So what I want to do is I want to put the word let in front of each one of these. I'm going to do that first. Don't worry, all these errors are going to go away. I guarantee it in about 15 seconds. All right, let's make these errors go away. Get rid of the colon and replace it with an equal sign. It's okay. You line these up just so it looks halfway decent. I think that's all right. Now it's still giving me errors here, so let's see if we can figure out why. It says a comma was expected. Replace that by the title. It shouldn't be a semicolon, but it looks like it wants semicolons there. So let me get rid of these, everything that's on the end here and see if that gets rid of it. There we go. All right. So again, what we're doing right here is that is basically saying that what we want to do is this is the stuff that's going to be, that we're going to be adding. And we're putting it here so that we can run and update one command on here. Now, remember that when we do this, all right, we also need an ID. All right, so let's come in here and let's add that. So let's let, and again, we can just call it ID. I can call it param ID. It doesn't really matter. All right, but I'm going to set that equal to request.params.id. All right. And I need that, you know this, I need that because what I want to do here, all right? What I want to do here is I want to do it by ID. All right. So we'll finish this one up and then we'll finish up the next one. That's very short, so it's not going to take too much time, and that's what I had for today. So again, we're going to come down here. And inside of this, we're going to put in our try catch. All right. And again, you can call this whatever you want. I called it updated movie because that's what it is. And again, it'll have an await on here. So this had this async over here. So it'll have an await right here. And it's going to be movie dot update 1. All right. Now, it's pretty ugly here. I'm warning you right now. I'm going to put in a parenthesis here. All right. So that's my beginning parenthesis because I have to put in all 8 fields right now. And each set of fields needs curly braces around them. So you can see the 8 fields here, not the ID, but the rest of them. So in other words, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say title, title, year made, year made, running time, running time, and a lot of times, just because it gets really ugly to read, you'll see developers put a space there and there, there, and there, there, and also on the end here. I'm not going to do that because even if, unless I go back and do a word wrap, and then that's going to look really ugly. So I'm just going to do it like this. So there's my first three. All right. And then I need category. Followed by rating. Followed by num stars. Followed by description and image. Bring that up and put it on the same line if we want. And as always, when we are coming in here to catch this, I'm going to grab that same thing that I've been using. All right. So all of that stuff collectively should hopefully allow us rather to do an update. So the only thing that's left is probably the easiest one. All right. And what I'm going to do to try to make my life just a little bit easier here is I am going to copy this in and I'm going to put it down in just a couple minutes. Not right now, but I will do it in just a minute. So let's see. All right. And so then finally, the last one that's left here is, as it says, delete a single movie. All right, so far we've come in and there's been a lot of code. List all movies, list single movie. So list all movies, list single movie. All right. Then we had insert single movie, update single movie, there, and now we need the delete single movie, the one that's right here. And again, come down here to the bottom and do my exports, just like we did here, exports dot, right, equals, again, will be asynchronous, REQ, RES. All right. And kind of like we did before, I let param ID equal request dot params dot ID. And then I think I still have it. No, I don't. All right. So let me grab this. Okay. And this won't be updated movie. It will be deleted movie. In fact, yeah, we can call it that. That's fine. Deleted movie. All right. And that'll be not update one. It'll be a delete one. But it doesn't need all this information. The only thing it needs is the title. That's it. In fact, not even the title. It needs the ID, not the title, because we're deleting it based off of our ID. So let me get rid of this. And we will put in here underscore ID because that's how it's actually saved, and colon our param ID. All right. And that's everything. So this is the first time we've actually gone through here. All right. So this is the first time that we've actually gone through here and we have used the MVC architecture and really set up a routes file and we set up a controllers file. Now, I'm not doing it here because I'm trying to get us into this gracefully, for lack of better words. But if we had literally, I mean, imagine like if they did something like this at an Amazon. All right, you wouldn't have one file, movie routes. You might have a different file for each route there was. So we could have put each one of these things that we put into our movie controller. We could have made a movie controller insert one, a movie controller delete one, a movie controller, etc. So we could have had different files as opposed to putting all these things into the same file. All right. All right. So I'm going to do a file save. Now, when I go back, and I'm going to grab this from where I had it before. So let me grab this. All right. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to go back to my .env file that we looked at before. So let me bring that back. All right, now I'm going to set that equal to this. Now I'm going to have to go in on mine. I don't really want to show you my password. So I'm going to go and put in my password. All right, and see if this works. Okay, you can try the same thing. Now, I'll be amazed if it works, just because of all the problems that we've had so far. But the good news is that you do have everything put in for your app.js. You've got everything put in for your movie routes.js. You've got everything put in for your movie controller.js. So the only thing that has to be resolved here is how to make this right here work. All right. In the worst case scenario, all right, if for some reason I'm going to start Googling, to be honest with you. And if for some reason I can't get it to work, all right, then what we could do, just so you see this, I'm trying to be consistent here, is we could copy this. I could put a line underneath it and I'll paste it in, but I'm going to change this quite a bit. I could put in MongoDB URI, and for example, I could call it local. And then it would just be what we've been doing in the past. In other words, where we had the local host. So I think we could just come in here and probably do something like this. Localhost, colon, remember it's 27017 / and then the name of our database, which we wanted to call movies DB. So we could do, I think, something like that. Again, the problem with that is, all right, the problem with doing it that way is if we do it that way, it's only going to be available on our own local machine. All right, it won't be available. We can't push that out to the cloud, in other words. All right, so I'm going to go in and try to fix this, and I'm going to stop lecturing for today. All right, I've got gentlemen who are working in here, and I want to get out of their way for a couple of minutes. All right, so I will take what I've done and I will save this, okay, and I will have the video available for you in a half an hour or so. But we'll pick it up here tomorrow. We'll try to make sure we get this to work. And then what I want to do is I want to go back and I want us to be able to add authorization in. Now, we might not use authorization on this movie one, but maybe we'll even go back to our to-do and we'll put authorization in there. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow then, okay? All right, thanks for bearing with me. I'm sorry I had some problems at the beginning, and I will talk to you then tomorrow.
I do apologize. I've been screwing you up all day, haven't I?
What's that?
I said, I've been screwing you up all day, haven't I?
No, not you. No, we had this software that I'm showing them. When I did it, I set it up for me a year ago, and now when they're setting it up, the screens are all different. So I said, no, your screen looks like this. And they're both like, no, it doesn't. Doesn't look anything like that. So I had to get out and reinstall everything So I'm using the new stuff.
Just relimit yourself.